All right, let's begin our watercolor demo. So first things first, I want you to take it really easy with this sample. So I'm sorry, that's my cat. You want to keep it really simple, just basic waves and swirls. This is just to practice, so you don't need to overwork your area too much. Basic shapes like that are going to help you with watercolor, so let's start with those. Don't go any more in depth. Look at the size of my pencil. Don't go any bigger than that, any smaller than that. You want to keep your shapes nice and large, otherwise you're never going to finish your sample. And this is really just to learn the basics of watercolor, not to create a mini work of art. So we start with a little water, and with the paint palette, you're going to want to dip water into areas and just let them soak a little bit before you get too much going. This will keep them, you'll get to have more pigment if you just keep good amounts of water on the watercolor at all times. Okay, so you always want to work light to dark, and you always want to be careful of your pencil marks. So right here, you can either erase that line if you want to see it gone, so that's what I'm gonna do right now, or you can paint over it and you're gonna see that pencil mark. So it'll be light enough that you can still see it. You may not be able to tell on the smartboard. Mosh. And then right here, I'm gonna make a bridge. So I just put down a little bit of water. I'm gonna pull it in. And then that helps me get value. So I made that look really simple, so I'm gonna keep practicing that and have you guys watch me do that again. So I'm gonna take my greeny yellow. I'm gonna erase this line so that it doesn't get stuck in the watercolor. So I'm gonna put a good amount of paint on my brush and water. You can see it sitting right there. Rinse my brush out. And then notice how I'm not starting right here on top of the paint, I'm right before the paint. So this is really, really important. Make sure your eyes are on the smartboard right now. You want to take this water and pull it gently into that green. So very carefully, just let them touch, and then really the watercolor will do the blending for you. And then I'm going to bring that down. And kind of pat it around a little bit and smooth it out, and it should fall into place. So let's do that one more time. You can also use the kneaded eraser. I just don't have one next to me right now. The kneaded eraser will keep you from having to wipe all that off all the time. So I got my edge perfect. I really took my time. I made that look simple, like shoo, but that's what you want to do. So you just get a nice even edge, clean my brush out, and just with a little bit of moisture on my brush. So I don't know if you can tell, but it's just damp. I'm just going to put a little bit of water here. So there's a little block between the two. Now if I wanted totally clean water, I might need to change my water out because it's looking a little murky already. And then I'm going to bring this up real gently. Again, all eyes should be on the smartboard. Watch this part. If you don't move quick enough, you may see a little line that'll appear. I don't know if you guys can tell. There's just that little edge that's kind of stuck in there from where I first applied it. Just take the brush and kind of gently go in little circles and kind of push it around a little bit. And pull that down. Notice how I'm not going back up in here, I'm just using this water over here to make that little teardrop. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and start on my circles. Just take a little bit of paint. If you can see that, it's just a little bit of red. I'm going to get my edge perfect, or as perfect as I can right now. So just like that. So the key is don't overdo it with too much paint or too much water. It's kind of learning a happy medium. Right here, I'm going to make my little bridge. So that dry sheet of paper right in between the two is my bridge. And just gently bring that in. And then just use a little bit of water. Kind of go around the edge. Now, if I don't like the way this turns out, I can always come back and add more to it. The key with watercolor is work in layers. Always, always, always work in layers. You'll be tempted to make this much darker. Don't add too much paint. Otherwise, it's going to look like you're painting a piece of paper. It's not going to look like a watercolor on watercolor paper. If that makes any sense, it'll look really tacky, like you know, like early elementary art where you paint on paper. That's what it's going to start to look like if you're not careful. So you want to definitely maintain the integrity of the watercolor. So right here, I'll do the same thing. I'll add a little bit of pigment. Make sure my brush is barely wet. Just slowly bring that in. See how that works? Just like so. And then I'll just let it pool. I'll zoom in so you can see it a little more clearly. So right here, go right along the edge. Clean my brush out. I have my bridge. And gently just kind of brush the two together. Notice that was just a couple strokes of the paintbrush. Do another one. So again, lay down my water and my pigment, like so. Clean my brush. I just dabbed it on a little bit of paper towel so it's not too wet. I'm just pulling it across. While it's still wet, you can always add a little bit more to make it darker. Just be careful, like I said, don't add too much, or it's gonna look really mucky. You always have to wait for it to dry. You can always add more once the layer's dry, just not beforehand. Again, this is all about practice. Don't feel like you absolutely have to be in 100% control or understand exactly what you're doing the whole time. It's as with like every practice we've done in here, it's going to take a little bit of time to figure it out, and that's okay. So now we can come in with another color. We'll do some blue. I'm going to go along these edges. So I got my edge perfect. I just dabbed it with a little bit of paper towel. I'm going to create my bridge just with a little damp water, or damp brush I should say. And again, watch very carefully. Just pull it right into there. And then watch how I spread it. So everyone's eyes are on the board. I'm not going to go back up here. I'm going to start right here. Now if I want it to start getting lighter, if I keep going, it's just going to turn everything the same color. So I need to clean out my water again. And then again, start a little bridge.